This episode is brought to you in part by Mike Scott Voice. When selecting your next audiobook, choose from some of the great titles narrated by audiobook narrator Mike Scott, like the upcoming Bloody Autumn, the Shenandoah Valley Campaign of 1864. And if you're an author or publisher interested in having your written works produced as audiobooks, give Mike Scott a shout at www.mikescottvoice.com. Mike Scott, the voice of history. I think they're just excited that Gettysburg gets mentioned in pop culture.
It's from a sitcom or a...
Yeah, I've never heard of.
We should
Some
put
like
out an
comedic
album.
movie.
American
Gettysburg
Housewife.
album.
We should.
Yes.
You're going to be the first track, Charlie.
Right. So then when Get Readysburg for Gettysburg is done, then we're going into Charlie singing.
Okay.
Short and bread.
I'm glad I got up early for this.
Hey, Fiona, can you give me a ride home? My dad has a faculty meeting. Isn't that your father right there? Oh, my God.
Thank you. All right, this next one goes out to all you civil warriors out there. It's called Getting Readysburg for Gettysburg.
Oh, my God. He plays here every Monday night with a few other history professors. You didn't know?
July of 1863. At 9 a.m. there was a battle for breakfast instead of boiled eggs and ham. The Union's in need of a leader with speed. Luckily they had General George G. Meade. We're parched from rebellions and a drink's what we need. So pour us that tall glass of General Meade. We're getting Readysburg for Gettysburg. Let's go in Gettysburg to Gettysburg. I'm feeling Sweatysburg from Gettysburg. 'Cause history gets me hot.
Oh, my God.
Which finger? Ah, Mary Little Baby Love Guided Tours. On the first day, Randall's got shot. God will take you right to that spot. Go to Peace Light, gotta get out. God will tell you what all about. Mary Little Baby Love Guiding, guiding. Mary Little Baby Love Guided Tour. Mary Little Baby Love riding, riding, riding on a guided tour. On the second day, the rebels went around 20th Maine, they held their ground. Ran out of bullets, but don't you fret. Chamberlain or the bayonet. Mary Little Baby Love guiding, guiding. Mary Little Baby Love guided tour. Mary Little Baby Love riding, riding, riding on guided tour. On the third day, Pickett did charge after an artillery barrage. 12,000 rebels came across that field, but the Union boys refused to yield. Mary Little Baby Love guiding, guiding. Mary Little Baby Love guided tour. Mary Little Baby Love riding, riding, riding on guided tour. After the battle, Lincoln came to town to help consecrate that hallowed ground. Tour's over now. Here's your keys. Don't you forget that gratuity. Riding, 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 little baby love, riding tour. Little baby love, riding, riding, riding on guided tour. Wait a minute. What about the museum verse? Okay, since we have a new...
Addressing Gettysburg.
Wow. That's the longest minute and 54 seconds of my life.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there was. That's the great Charlie Fennell singing Guided Tours.
Is that what I was doing?
That's allegedly. That's what you were doing. That's our guest today, Charlie Fennell, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. And that first clip was people have been sending that in to me all week. It's some show I've never heard of. I don't watch TV.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was funny. Get Readysburg for Gettysburg. The name of the band was Paul Revere and the Graders. That's pretty good. It's from a TV show. What's it called? Oh, I already closed it. I forgot. It's like, what did I just say it was? American Moms or something like that?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, well, whatever. It's, I thought I'd put that in there for your entertainment purposes. We are talking about the 16th Maine today, but gosh, before we get to that, there's so much housekeeping to do today, and I want to get right to that so we can get it out of the way. a lot of thanks coming everybody's way here. So let me start here. First of all, Mike Lentz, wish list here. He has sent us some things. He says, I hope these add some organizational flair to your side of the desk, Matt. At the very least, they should help prevent Eric from completely losing his mind at the sight of the chaos on your side of the desk.
There
Mike Lentz, those are the bookends that we have over there for the library. And he also sent this a cough box. He says, in this age of COVID, a product named Cough Blocks seems appropriate. Enjoy the sound of silence with this mute switch from Mike Lentz. Okay, so that's that. But also, my gosh, so many other things here. We've gotten a lot of things from people who bought off of the wish list. And I thought, we thank them on the show when the stuff comes in and everything like that. But I'm so appreciative of all of this stuff, and I feel like I need to do more, and I don't know what there is I can do except to dedicate a show to each person who has bought something off of the wish list. So that's what we're going to start doing. So this show is dedicated to Michael George, not George Michael. He's dead. Michael George. He's a listener, and I don't know if you notice listening at home that the dulcet tones of my voice sound maybe a little more dulceter. And that's because he got a microphone for us, and it's the Rode Broadcaster microphone. I love it. I hope you do too. And we're just going to let that hang as long as we can.
I don't even know what to say. There's so many microphones that have been attached to that one stand in the last 3 months.
I am a microphone nerd and
kind of a sociopath.
And you know what? That's probably a better word. A microphone sociopath, a micropath, and
It's a small trail.
Yeah, and so there's that and the other thing and the other thing. What else here? Okay. We have more people to thank, actually. Brian Russell, he donated $25 to PayPal through our homepage at addressinggettysburg.com. So that's good, too. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, have you heard some of the stuff over at Patreon recently? Scott Hartwig, Noah Andre Trudeau, the great Donnie Copper, heavy hitters. And we hope you enjoyed our 7 days of Christmas episodes that we put out. Those were free Patreon episodes from last year, in their entirety, so that you can get a fuller picture of what's over there, but still only just a taste of what can be found at Patreon. And a special thank you to two of our patrons who raised their pledge amounts. I totally forgot that you can do this.
Yes.
One of them, Stuart S., raised it to $100.
Like
a month.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And Skip W, he raised it to $75 a month.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So thanks for doing that. I totally forgot you could do that. It was a pleasant surprise, and thank you very much. If you want to become a patron, you certainly don't have to go that high. There's $1, $3, $5, and $15 levels, and they each get you something. We, the more you pay, the more we think that you should be getting something in return. So we do these episodes over there for you to enhance your Gettysburg edumacation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and make sure you have notifications turned on. Also, if you use the Apple Podcast app, please leave a 5-star review. Reviews, liking, sharing, subscribing are the best ways to help us grow our audience. Okay. So today we have Charlie Fennell with us, and we're going to talk about one of those regiments that, first of all, man, the Maine boys really took a licking here at Gettysburg,
really did.
you know? And
you don't even have to talk about the 20th to do that.
Exactly. But everybody only thinks of the 20th Maine, but we're here to tell you, no. There were other ones. The 16th Maine. Man, I would not want to be in that regiment on July 1st.
No, not at all.
No. And so we decided we did a poll over on Patreon, and we ask people, okay, here are some of the topics we want to cover. Which one, do you want to hear first or something like that? And so that's what we're doing now. We're getting those in the pipeline, and one of them is this one, the 16th Maine. That was a very popular one. So Charlie, welcome to the show as always.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's always entertaining. It's always a good time to have you over here. So I'm glad you came by. Before we get on though to the 16th Maine, Charlie was on several episodes ago on our homeless questions episode, and we were talking about the work that the Park Service is going to do on Culp's Hill and Little Round Top. And, people listen. There's a lag sometimes when you hear back from people, and they binge. They let episodes build up, and then they binge, and then they hear these things, and they go, "Oh no," And so I've been getting a lot of emails asking, what is going on with Little Round Top? When are they starting? Are they really building platforms and things? And what is going on? And some on Culp's Hill as well. So maybe we can update this, because we were talking before the show a little bit, and you have a little more detail now than we did back then. So what do you know now about Little Round Top? What's the plan?
Well, the plan on Little Round Top is to shut it down from anywhere from 12 to 18 months so they can do some restoration. They're going to put in a lot of walking trails. From what I understand, they scrapped the idea, no pun intended here, of doing the wooden observation decks.
Nice. Thank God.
So I think they're getting rid of that. And it is fairly well eroded, as we were talking before the show.
Yeah.
It needs some work.
Something needs to be done.
Right.
But horrible platforms, no, we don't want to see it. Because it would probably be nice from Little Round Top, but from anywhere else where you could see Little Round Top, it would probably look kind of like an alien invasion or something, like flying saucers up there, or I don't know.
It'd be like Round Top Park was back up there again.
Yeah.
Dance hall and all.
I would say it looked like a ski slope or something. I don't know. But
right.
They're gonna get away from that idea, which is a good thing, as you know. And so it's going to start probably this fall, perhaps late fall, depending on if they get all their paperwork accomplished,
Right.
There, and then that'll be done for at least a year.
Okay.
So that's what's going to happen.
If it starts in the fall, then you got the winter, which, a lot of people aren't coming during the winter anyway, so it's not like we're missing out there. But it's going to be tough during the spring and the summer.
Right.
Especially for the sunset lovers, they love to go and watch the sunset from Little Round Top. We're going to have to find other places to go.
They're going to have a Little Round Top withdrawal.
Yes, absolutely. But that's the beauty of this area, though, is that if you are a sunset lover, there's plenty of places to go. The sunset is always beautiful.
Yes.
Where you look at it, it doesn't always matter.
Right.
Go to a rooftop or something. All right, so now the brilliant thing, though, is that this winter, supposedly, the Park Service is going to begin clearing Culp's Hill. Not the whole hill, but they're going to tell us what you were telling me about how much they're going to be clearing.
Yeah, the initial plan was about 18 acres. There's 3 phases, phase 1, 2, 3, obviously. And we're going to start with phase 1, imagine that. And it's going to be out in front of Green's Line, which runs from the top of the hill down to the swale. And they're going to take 18 acres out of that. I understand now they're planning on going down at least to East Confederate Avenue.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
So they're going to clear that out. They're going to not take all the trees, obviously, because there were trees on the hill, but the undergrowth is gone, and about 80% of the other trees.
Because right now the trees go right up to the road.
They go right up to it.
But they didn't during the battle.
No.
There was also no road there.
There was no road, no monuments either. Can you imagine that?
But how did the soldiers know where to go without the monuments there?
They probably had a guide.
Of course.
But anyway, they're gonna do that out in front. They're gonna put in walking trails. The plan was you could actually park on East Confederate, and then get on a walking trail and walk up along the Green's Line and back down, be circular.
From the Confederate point of view.
The Confederate point of view. It's hard to understand the battle from just the Union point of view. I mean, the Confederates are the initiators here.
Right.
And so if you really want to understand the battle, you got to see it from both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can't see it from the Confederate point of view on Culp. So I haven't been able to see it for decades.
And if you're among the brave who's gone down there in the woods without any trails or clearings or anything during the winter, it is a really I find it to be a lot more fascinating than just going up along the road, because you're looking up. And, you can see the monuments through the trees, and so that's going to make it easier for you to kind of get an idea of where the Union troops would have been and everything. And it's crazy, especially when you're on the towards Green's left. That whole part there. I mean, you could see why they just went around. You can't get up there.
No, that's what the guy said. We needed scaling ladders to take that hill.
Yeah.
And you wonder what he was talking about unless you go down there and look up.
Yeah. So the brilliance of this, from what we were talking about before, was that they're going to do this now, so that when Little Round Top is unavailable and people go, well, what do we do now? Then you go, well, there's this beautiful new walking path over at Culp's Hill, and for once you can kind of see it as the soldiers did.
Yeah.
Minus all the pock marks in the trees.
And visit Culp's Hill, which is way more important than Little Round Top anyways.
Yeah, so that's pretty smart thinking on their part to do it that way, because that's going to get Culp's Hill a lot more attention. And maybe this will be the moment in 50 years people look back on and go, well, why is it that everybody used to be all about Little Round Top, but nobody cares anymore and it's all Culp's Hill? And things will flip around in favor of Culp's Hill.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to argue with the view you get from Little Round Top.
No, it is.
I don't know.
The Sunsetters will still go to Little Round Top, I'm afraid.
The what?
The Sunsetters.
Yeah. Well, there is going to be that. But still, I mean, as far as battle action goes, they're going to be like, well, not to take anything away from the 20th Maine.
Right, sure.
But Culp's Hill had some pretty interesting fighting.
Let's definitely take some away from the 20th Maine and give it to the reserves.
All right, well, let's take some of it away from the 20th Maine and give it to the 16th Maine today.
Yeah.
So the 16th Maine, Charlie, give us a little bit of history of the 16th Maine, and then get us up to Gettysburg.
Yeah, the 16th Maine was organized in the summer of 1862. That's when the North thought they were going to win the war, and they closed all the recruiting stations, and then Robert E. Lee takes charge, and now we need help. Okay, so there was a massive recruiting effort, and the 16th Maine is part of that. It was organized previous to the Battle of Antietam. It didn't fight in that battle, however. It did get a course to walk across the field with all the dead bodies there before they buried them, and it did participate in the fighting at Fredericksburg. So that would be their first battle action, and they served, of course, in the Franklin's Grand Division, which, as we know, had the most successful story for the Union as they pierced Jackson's line. They fought near the train station down there as part of Meade's division, and made that penetration. So they did suffer some serious losses at Fredericksburg. Chancellorsville, the First Corps really didn't get that much involved in the fighting at Chancellorsville. It was mostly the 11th, 3rd Corps there that were flanked by Jackson. So Gettysburg is their next big episode. So they're battle tested, but I wouldn't necessarily say they were the most experienced unit in the Union Army when they come to Gettysburg. They have suffered attrition. 1,040 officers and men is a regimental strength. When you start, by the time you get to Gettysburg, they're just under 300. So you're looking at if my math serves me, you're looking at 70% decline.
Yeah, and a lot of that's disease.
Yes, a lot of it's disease. People were broke down; they just couldn't handle the rigors.
They spent a hard 3 months between September and December of '62. Yes. They got sent to D.C. to garrison the defenses of Washington. Mm-hmm. Then they got ordered accidentally to go join the Army of the Potomac out at Antietam, and they were ordered to leave their knapsacks, their overcoats, their tents, all their camp equipage at D.C., and they never got that back until I think it's like the first week of December of '62. So and they also never got new uniforms issued in that period either. So these guys are walking, or they called them the Blanket Brigade, because these guys they're wearing blankets as overcoats because it's freezing, and they don't have anything else.
Man, I would have left.
they were ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
They were ridiculed.
They took a lot of
Blanket
heat for
brigade.
that, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Of course. So when they get to Gettysburg, they're in Robinson's division of the First Corps, right?
Yes.
Paul's brigade.
Yes.
So the battle, by the time they come online, is pretty much underway.
Yes.
At this point, where do they start off that morning? Where are they camped?
Well, they start off. They just around the Pennsylvania-Maryland line.
Okay, just over.
Yeah, and then they're going to march up with the First Corps. Initially, there was no immediacy. There wasn't supposed to be a battle on
Right.
July 1st.
Right.
So they took their time, and then they got word that you have to hurry up. There's something going on. They could hear the sound of the action as they were marching, north along the Emmitsburg Road, coming up there from Emmitsburg. And they were told it was just Buford's cavalry. Don't worry about it. But the closer they got, the more noise they heard. And they could hear artillery, and they realized that, oh my gosh, there's something going on up here. And then they got orders to increase their pace. So when they arrive, they're going to they're going to go to the Cadore farm on the Emmitsburg Road. They're going to cut across the fields there. You don't want to go into the town, too many traffic lights. You never get through in time.
Right.
But anyway, they all avoided the town for obvious reasons. It could be a choke point.
Sure.
Even
Yeah.
without traffic lights.
But it's also kind of the shortest distance between two points is a straight line.
And that's
so
pretty much the line that Reynolds had laid out that morning. When
Right.
he had his staff take down the fence rails so that they could
so
judiciously move across the field.
the rest of the First Corps has moved up that way anyway. So
Yes.
they're just following along the way.
Just using like you said, the direct line.
And then they're rushed at that point, aren't they? They're kind of
Yeah,
told to go with the
rushed up,
double quick.
and they get to the seminary, and then by that time it's around 11 o'clock or so in the battle. The morning fight anyway is winding down, so they're put in reserve on Seminary Ridge, and they're told to build. Doubleday, I guess, ordered them to build barricades. From what I understand, they use a bunch of fence rails, and they basically put them out in front of the seminary building in roughly a semicircle.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where they were, and primarily probably because, you want to have some protection in case you're getting shelled, artillery rounds coming in, that sort of thing. And there was some artillery action, as we know, coming from Hers Ridge, firing onto McPherson's ridges there where the First Corps was deployed. It's not until just a little later in the morning that Rhodes Division comes online there at Oak Hill, and then you have other artillery now firing in from a different direction, coming in from the north. So the First Corps was actually caught in a kind of a crossfire with artillery, which made it more difficult for them to try and figure out where to find shelter from the storm, so to speak. But eventually Baxter's brigade will be ordered to deploy along Oak Ridge.
Okay,
so Baxter takes off, leaves Paul behind. That's the 16th Maine's with Paul, and they're going to go into those entrenchments. Baxter will move across the Chambersburg Pike, probably on the eastern slope of what is called today Oak Ridge, and they're going to move up into that area, and they're going to encounter O'Neill and Iverson. And they're going to defeat those two brigades before Paul is called on to support them. Okay, so until the 16th Maine arrives, you're looking at mid-afternoon, probably between 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, that they're actually going to be deployed on Oak Ridge.
And are they kind of towards the end of the brigade? Like they're like last in line or second to last? They're not one of the first ones to get up there, right?
No, Baxter was up there earlier.
No, I mean the 16th Maine.
They're in the middle of the regiment.
They're in the middle of the regiment, okay.
Yeah. And in fact, when they deployed there to support Baxter, they sent two regiments, and that'd be the 13th Massachusetts and the 104th New York, would go to the right of Baxter and form along the Emmitsburg Road,
right.
or the Mummersburg Road, facing north. They would be looking more at Rhodes' deployment there. And then the other three regiments formed to the left of Baxter's brigade behind a stone wall that is still there, although I don't think it's in the right spot, but be that as it may, they were formed on the left. So Paul's brigade has been separated.
By Baxter's.
Yeah. And,
so they're basically moved in to support Baxter's flanks.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the ones on the left are what, connecting with Coster? Is that kind of the idea? Is
the one on the left? Well, if you're looking at it, the ones on the left are bent back towards Sheed's Woods. They'd be with Cutler.
Cutler, that's
Cutler.
what I meant.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank you.
I thought that's what you meant.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's where they are. The 16th Maine's first action will be driving out the remnants of Iverson's men that were still in the swale after his brigade was pretty well decimated by Baxter.
Yeah, okay.
And they're going to make a bayonet charge and drive those remnants away, because the first casualties occur as they're deploying along that stone wall. And I think one of the color bearers is one of the first ones hit. Mm-hmm. Then a captain goes down there, and so they decided they needed to clear those people out. I think it's Paul's hit as well.
In the face.
Yeah,
he's on horseback. Yeah,
hit him in the temple, went behind his eyes,
blinded him for.
Yeah, he's blinded for life.
Yeah. So he's not there very long. That brigade, though, Paul's brigade, they go through what, 6 commanders by the end of the battle, or something like that.
Yeah, who's in charge now? Yeah, it's a real tough situation for them, and which is probably why when we get down to the orders to move the 16th forward, it's actually the division commander
who does it,
who gives the order. Robinson.
Right. Okay.
Robinson gives the order.
All right. I think that's a question somebody had.
Is it?
Why
okay.
is it?
Yeah.
But we'll go into that more later.
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
So the fighting's going on there up in the Oak Ridge area. Mm-hmm. And how are things going for everybody?
Well, you have a certain lull there after Rhodes' initial advance, and then he has to bring up his reserve brigades, which is one of the ones that's going to be most important for the 16th Maine, be Ramseur. Mm-hmm. Ramseur has the smallest brigade in Rhodes' division, but he might be, and probably is, the best brigade commander in the brigade, but he was near the end of the line, and so he was deployed later. He's going to be given command of Iverson and O'Neill's brigades as well.
Ramseur.
Ramseur,
okay.
That's correct. A fairly young man, West Pointer, and they're going to hit the point, I would say, the right flank, let's say, of the First Corps on Oak Ridge.
Okay.
And that's where the 16th Maine will come in there to help, get the people out of there.
To hold them off.
Well, as the 16th Maine, as we know, was there towards the left of the line. And things start to break down roughly around 3:30, certainly by 4 o'clock when Juba Early arrives late.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, comes in late. He comes in on the flank of the 11th Corps, and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they could see Hill's men to the west, which would be their left, driving the First Corps, probably off McPherson's Ridge back to Seminary Ridge there, and eventually from Seminary Ridge into the town. They could also see the 11th Corps being driven in by Dole's brigade of Rhodes' division, but also Early's advance on their flank. So they could see the whole Union line collapsing around them.
Well, that just occurred to me. Like they're in a great spot.
Yeah, for visibility.
Up there. Yeah, for visibility. Yeah, you could see it all happening. I would not want to be in that spot for any other reason, though.
Yeah.
Not a good spot.
No.
So, okay, so the 16th Maine, why is it that we are so fascinated with what happened to them?
Well, eventually orders come from a staff officer from Robinson that they are to advance to the Mummersburg Road and fight essentially a delaying action to allow Paul's brigade to extricate itself from these converging forces from the west and from essentially the north that are closing in on it, the jaws of death, as you will. And so the order was eventually then reiterated by Robinson himself. So he came up to Colonel Tilton, told him to advance, and of course Tilton looked at the men, and most accounts have the same response. He says, well, you know what that means. And so everybody in the blue uniforms headed one way. The 16th Maine's going the opposite direction. They were told to advance to the Mummersburg Road and hold at all hazards. in order that another Maine regiment will get the next day.
Yeah.
And they advanced to the Mummersburg Road. Fortunately, they had the foresight to put a little marker there. And the marker was where the point of their line would be. And so from that marker, if you go to the right of it, you're along the Mummersburg Road. If you go to the left of it, you're along the stone wall facing the fields to the west.
And this is right at that intersection there now, or
Yeah,
right by the
tower there. Is a
the
truncated
88th
tower.
Pennsylvania. Is it 88th Pennsylvania?
Yeah, 88th Pennsylvania's there.
Yeah.
The one that has all the junk on it.
Yeah. Is that the one with that looks like a tree?
No, that's the 90th.
90th Pennsylvania.
That's the 90th.
Which is the 88th Pennsylvania?
88th has the bird and the
Oh, yeah.
flags and the drums.
Okay.
It's got all the junk on it.
Yeah.
They left no stone unturned, so to speak.
Okay. So it's in that area there.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's right where the road comes off of the Peace Light.
Yeah.
And you cross the Mummersburg Road, and there's a little truncated tower. If you look directly to your left as you cross the Mummersburg Road, you'll see a little marker there. It has some damage because one of the guys got a bus hung up on it a few years back. But anyway.
Oh, nice.
Oh, but anyway, so that marks where the line bent. Okay, so that'd be the
that's
center
the apex of their line.
The apex of their line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm sure they've taken some casualties, so there's less than 300. What'd you say, 300?
Well, there's 298 according to most accounts.
298.
98 men, and they're supposed to hold back.
Thousands.
Well, yes, thousands. Certainly you have elements of 3 brigades that are going to confront them initially. That'd be Iverson, Ramseur, and O'Neill. Okay, and even though O'Neill and Iverson have been pretty well shot up, they still have a lot more men than the 16th Maine does. So it's a very desperate situation, and eventually, as we know, they see the wisdom of beginning to gradually withdraw. So they start to fall back along the ridge.
Okay.
Okay, so they're falling back south along the ridge, holding back these 3 brigades. Daniels will join in as they come into the Sheeds Woods, almost behind them.
Right, because they're falling back, and so now it's like, God.
If you got 4 brigades, there are elements of 4 brigades.
Yeah.
1 regiment.
What a mess.
Yeah, and they're going to go into Sheeds Woods and they get to the railroad cut, or the half cut as we call it, because that's the one that the college took about 7 acres out there for whatever reason. But be that as it may, that's when they realized they aren't making it. They aren't getting away. There's too many Confederates behind them, and so they realized it was either die or surrender. Okay, and then Colonel Tilton, the men prevailed upon him to allow them to tear the colors off the flags, rip them into shreds, and break the poles so that they would not suffer the indignation of having to surrender those as trophies to the Confederates, which they did there. And, of course, while they're doing this, the Confederates now are coming upon them. One Confederate, maybe 100 feet away, yelled to Tilton to surrender. He'd shoot him. And supposedly Tilton, by most accounts, took his sword and stuck it in the ground. Just slammed it into the ground.
And broke it?
He tried to. Okay, now here's where the real interesting part of it is. Most of the accounts at the time said he tried to break it, but he didn't. But as you get to post-war accounts, it's much more dynamic and dramatic if he breaks that sword.
Sure.
As they had destroyed the colors.
Yeah.
And so most of your dresses, even the dedication of the monument, will say that Tilton broke his sword at the hilt, broke it off at the hilt. I've seen these swords, and unless the sword's in pretty bad shape, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, you could break it in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But not
the
at the
tip,
hilt.
but that's.
So this was mostly post-war drama.
Okay. So it wasn't just the South who did that.
No.
It was the guys from the North as well.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the story sounds good, tell it.
Right. Print the legend.
Yeah. And so and Tilton pretty much told them, you guys are on your own. Okay. Most of the accounts I've read, there's one that's a little different. You got about 38 men and 4 officers make it back to Cemetery Hill.
Yeah.
Okay. They just pretty much, took off on their own. One was Abner Small. and he made it through. He was the adjutant of the regiment, and he wrote the regimental history. We were just talking about that before the program,
which is available on Google Books for free.
Yeah.
For those of you interested.
those Googlers out there.
Yeah, you modern people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And so they then reformed with what's left of the First Corps there on Cemetery Hill and Cemetery Ridge.
Yeah. And so let's just repeat that again. 38 men and 4 officers.
Correct.
Report for duty.
Right. Or
back at Cemetery Hill.
That's right.
That's a lot.
Out of 298.
Yeah. I mean, now most of those guys are captured, though, right? Or is it?
I think it's like 164 are captured.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Abner Small.
Yeah,
Abner Small actually lists as missing, which is mostly captured, 11 officers, 148 men. So 159.
Yeah, 159.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Captured.
And then the rest wounded or killed.
Yeah, he lists 2 officers, 8 men killed, 7 officers, 29 men wounded, and then 11 officers, 148 missing.
And then, so they get back to Cemetery Hill.
Yes.
They have a pretty good sleep that night, those who remain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
They're exhausted.
Yes.
I'm sure most of the Army was.
Yes.
And they wake up and they find that there's more Union soldiers there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then Sickles pulls his stunt down on the south end of the field. And they actually, towards the end of all of that, Paul's brigade, who's in command of Paul's brigade now?
Coulter,
that's right.
Yeah.
They get ordered to go down, and I think they end up deploying somewhere around the George Weichert farm.
That's
if I'm
correct.
not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay. And but the Confederates are done by this point. They're withdrawing, so there's nothing that happens. But I believe on the way, a shell explodes amongst the 16th Maine.
Yes.
And they lose a handful of other guys. So there's 8 other guys out of 30, or what was it? What was it? 30? Yeah, 38. Yeah, 42.
Yeah.
Man, they're having a tough time.
One guy was killed and the other 7 were injured.
Yeah.
It was right past Meade's headquarters.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
on
because they
their way
went
over.
down the Tawnytown Road and cut across the fields there past Meade's headquarters.
And they didn't take Hancock Avenue. Why?
It wasn't there.
Oh, it wasn't there. Okay, that would be why.
Oh, my.
That was for the benefit of the people that are wondering that in the audience.
Yeah. It wasn't there yet.
No, okay.
Hancock was, but the Avenue wasn't.
It hadn't been important ground yet.
Yes.
So, yeah, the 16th Maine would not be one of those regiments that I would want to be in during the Battle of Gettysburg,
I'd
for
rather
sure.
fight in the 20th Maine than the 16th in
Yeah.
Gettysburg. No doubt about it.
And then July 3rd happens. So now they're moved down by the George Weichert farm, and then they're sent to go back up to like Ziegler's Grove, that area.
Right, to support the artillery.
Tell the story of Coulter's brigade flag. Do you know the story I'm thinking of?
I'm not sure, no.
He places his flag, sticks it in the ground, so his headquarters, because he makes his headquarters
right.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, the Ziegler's Grove.
And then the bombardment starts, I think.
Yes.
And he can't find his flag. And he goes, "Where the hell's my flag?"
That's right.
The story. And then he finds the orderly and the flag laying flat down behind a stone wall.
Yes, I do remember the story.
And he grabs the kid with one hand and the flag with the other, and he stands them both up, and he like drags them up to the front, and he says something like, "I'm going to get you killed," or if I can't get, I don't remember what his line was
something
exactly.
to that effect.
But something to the effect of, "You're going to stand here with this flag until you get killed," basically.
Yeah.
But they don't. Do they take part in the repulsive Pickett's charge, or what's going on with them? Because they're in the area. I believe, if this will refresh your memory, I believe I read this morning that they were closer to Cemetery Hill when the bombardment started, and then they were moved over to basically the right of like the 111th, that area there. New York, 111th New York,
yes.
By the Bryan farm, but they got there just in time to see the Pickett
they didn't have
Pettigrew assault go away.
Yeah, they didn't participate in the repulse.
Which I think, they've had enough.
Yeah, some of them were detailed to help with Hull's battery for a time too.
Okay.
So that they were used to make up for the lack of artillerymen.
Yeah.
Which had occurred on July 1st as well.
Right, because Hull took a pretty good beating on July 1st as well.
Yeah, so some of them were detached for a time to do that.
Oh, man, it's amazing. It's really hard to imagine.
They suffered 77.9% losses in the Battle of Gettysburg. So compared to the 20th Maine takes 32.4% losses.
Mm-hmm. That's basically like on par with, right? Like 30-ish
about
percent.
the 30-ish is the Army of Potomac.
Yeah.
That's their casualties.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, according to Busey and Martin, and this is my go-to source for numbers, 298 men were engaged, 232 of them are casualties. 9 men killed, 59 wounded, and then 100 and whatever, 60, 59, whatever, missing. Most of them are captured.
Right.
Including Tilton.
Right.
The colonel.
Yeah.
So Captain Marston actually commanded the regiment for the rest of the battle after July 1st.
Well, it's about the size of a company anyway.
That's about right. Yeah, it is the size of
yeah, you might as well. Oh, boy.
Yeah, how about
all right.
that, huh?
Well, so that's the story of the 16th Maine. What we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break, and we will come back and take the questions from our patrons over at patreon.com. So stick around. I'll tell you what, this might come in handy if the lockdowns continue throughout the winter. Plowman Cider is a proud sponsor of Addressing Gettysburg and wants to offer our listeners the chance to bring Adams County's delicious agricultural countryside to the comfort of your own home this winter. Grown and fermented on Plowman's 7th-generation family farm, their heirloom and bittersweet apple varieties create ciders that would have been familiar to our ancestors but will be new to your modern taste buds. You can get Plowman Cider on Gettysburg's historic Lincoln Square at their tap room or have it shipped to your home by visiting plowmancider.com. Addressing Gettysburg listeners can use the coupon code CIDERPOD at checkout to enjoy 15% off your order. So put a taste of Adams County in your glass this winter with Plowman Cider. Go to plowmancider.com and use promo code CIDERPOD for 15% off. That's plowghmancider.com. You must be 21 years of age and shipping is subject to your state's regulations.
Think outside the bus and let GettysBike Tours show you the only way to truly experience Gettysburg. There's a reason why GettysBike Tours is the longest running bicycle tour company in Gettysburg, and that's because they put the customer's experience and safety at the top of their list of priorities. Follow a licensed battlefield guide through some of the most legendary ground in American history. There's a tour route for everyone, from the newbie to the hardcore history buff. So go to GettysBike.com or call 717-752-7752 and book your reservation today. Mention Addressing Gettysburg and receive 10% off your tour. Discount does not apply to rentals. That's GettysBike.com or 717-752-7752.
The History of North America podcast is a sweeping historical saga of the United States, Canada, and Mexico, from their deep origins to our present epoch. Join me, Mark Vinette, on this exciting, fascinating, epic journey through time, focusing on the compelling, wonderful, and tragic stories of North America's inhabitants, heroes, villains, leaders, environment, and geography. This incredible historical adventure follows a path of exciting events led by interesting people who reach beyond their grasp to touch key moments in time. The History of North America podcast series is an educational and entertaining look at the thrilling chronicle of North America, an action-packed tale of a continent that is still unfolding. I invite you to come along for the ride.
Hey Gettysburg business owners, 2021 is just around the corner, and that means that in a few months, people will be planning their spring, summer, and fall trips. So why not tell them about your business through Addressing Gettysburg? Did you know that younger families look for shorter vacations and they plan their itinerary before they ever set foot in their destination? Did you know that Addressing Gettysburg provides great exposure to several thousand listeners within a 4 to 8 hour drive of Gettysburg each month, and tens of thousands more outside of that area? Did you know that by the time someone sees your ad in an expensive print publication after they've arrived, they've already made their plans and it's too late to convert them? Or did you know that our listeners have not only a love of the history of Gettysburg, but also of the place itself and the many awesome businesses we have to patronize? With 57% of Americans listening to podcasts these days, there's really no good reason to not get on board with Addressing Gettysburg. So take advantage of our ground floor rates while they last. Contact us at advertise@addressinggettysburg.com. That's advertise@addressinggettysburg.com. Gettysburg, a nation divided. The battle that changed America. Avatars, generals, artifacts, games, 360-degree views, an immersive battlefield experience. A new way to discover history. Gettysburg, A Nation Divided, an augmented reality narrated by Scott Eastwood.
Download it from your phone's app store today and support Addressing Gettysburg by entering GBurg1863 in the referral code prompt after downloading.
You're listening to the Addressing Gettysburg podcast with Matt Callery.
All right. Thank you, Sam. We are back. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, these sponsors that we have here, Plowman Cider and Mike Scott Voice, they're real sponsors. Some people have asked me, like, are you just making it up so it sounds like a radio show? And I said, no, they're actually real sponsors. And so, it helps us to help them. So, if you are in the market for either of their wares, and by the way, we have other ones that are in the works that we're talking to now, so it should be interesting, and we hope that you would support our sponsors there. Okay, now it's time to get to our questions from our patrons over at patreon.com/Addressing Gettysburg. So if you'd like to submit questions for our guides to answer and to get the exclusive content that we provide for you over there, then please consider joining us over at Patreon today, patreon.com/Addressing Gettysburg. Okay, Charlie, here we go.
All right.
We have questions. Our first one is from Joey Picard. He's speaking to patrons. He's a brand new one. And his question is, what would the color guard have used to cut up the flags? Bare hands, bayonets, pocket knives? And wouldn't their captors have seen them doing this and confiscate the pieces anyway?
From what I understand, they just tore them. They ripped them. The flags
probably had a lot of bullet holes in it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they've been around since, August.
Yeah.
So you're looking at close to a year.
And they're silk, so I mean, the material's not terribly hard
right.
to
It's
tear
not
anyways,
like cotton duck or whatever.
Yeah, and they probably had holes in them, so you could start from there.
Yeah.
And tear them up. They would probably be in the center of the regiment. So once they went down, once they tore them off the poles, you would not be able to see what they were doing with it.
Right. And were they in the railroad cut when that happened?
I believe they were.
Yeah, so they might
were right in the cut.
Yeah.
Or at least at the eastern edge of it.
Plus, there's all this other chaos going on. There's
a lot of smoke. Yeah, a lot of smoke.
And just because you've got the advantage and you're chasing down a retreating enemy, it doesn't mean you have any clue what's going on.
That's right. It doesn't mean you can see clearly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Especially when tearing the flags up.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well,
if I can, I'd like to read the
there you go.
The bit that Abner Small has to say about it. He says, the intrepid color bearers, Maurer and Thomas, waved defiance to the foe as they closed around the regiment. Although conspicuous marks, they gallantly held aloft the loved emblems until capture was inevitable. And then by advice and consent of the colonel and other officers, broke the staff and tore in shreds the silk banners, the pride of the regiment, and divided the pieces. Today, away down in Maine, can be found in albums and frames, gold stars and shreds of silk, cherished mementos of the critical period.
I would love to see an original piece of that flag. That'd be cool.
They're around.
Oh, I bet they are.
Yeah, there's still quite a few of them floating around.
Yeah.
My second year as a guide, and I didn't know as much as I do now, obviously. I had the general story of the 16th and their flags.
Right.
I had this guy, and he wanted to see where they fought, and so we went there and we talked about it. And he had a little pamphlet with him. It was the 16th Maine, and he opened the pamphlet, and on the page that talked about the flag, there was a silk piece
I'll
in
be
there,
damned.
red, and it had stained the pages.
Really?
He said, "This is from my great-great-grandfather."
Wow.
That's incredible.
That's awesome.
So I got to see an original piece
Oh, wow.
of the flag. If he was, telling the truth, I had no reason to assume that he wasn't. Supposedly, there are 4 remnants of the flag in historical societies in Maine. But the old legend was they all got together, a reunion afterwards, and then sewed the flag back. That's just not true.
Yeah, okay. Because I think that's another question somebody asked later on.
There's 4, I think, as far as I know, that they're on display.
Yeah. Okay. Tyler Fastnacht says, hey, Matt, I had 2 ancestors fight in the 16th Maine. One detached to Hall's Battery, the one who received the certificate from Chamberlain after the war. He sent me that. And another who was killed on July 1st from a mini ball to the head. I was wondering, with only 38 men reporting on the morning of July 2nd, was the regiment essentially put out of commission in the rear until it could be re-outfitted, or were they assigned to other duties in the second and third day of the battle? Well, we covered that a little bit there.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But after the Battle of Gettysburg, what happens to the 16th Maine?
Well, they stay with the brigade. I mean, they don't, just because they're...
Just 38 men?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. And, of course, eventually they'll recruit up to strength.
Okay.
In 64, they had the wounded coming back. You always have a few.
Sure.
And you have some paroled.
Okay.
Exchanges that'll bring more troops. And then the draft. Then we love the draft.
Sure.
And I think it was 198 conscripts.
Okay.
As they were called, were added to the regiment. So by the time you get to, let's say, November of 1863, supposedly they had over 600 men now.
Oh, wow.
Which was about twice as what they had against.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so
that's what they're getting up there.
Yes.
But immediately after the battle, though, don't they participate in the pursuit?
Yes, they do.
Of Lee?
Yeah, they do.
So they just keep on going.
Just keep trucking.
They participate in the Mine Run campaign too.
And that's exactly right. Yeah.
Before they come. Yeah, I guess that would be.
And that's before before they really got up to strength.
Yeah.
So they would still, you're probably looking still less than 100 men.
Oh, God.
Example of the 20th, not the 20th, but the
1st Minnesota.
No, the Connecticut unit in the
17th.
17. I mean, they had
27th.
27th in the wheat field.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 3 companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, they have 100. They have a little over 100 men, and they're a regiment.
Yeah.
And they form line of battle and fight with the brigade.
And wasn't the 1st Minnesota, didn't they come back with like 48 men or something like that? Didn't they have a
47?
47. That's crazy.
It is, yeah.
It's amazing. And then they would just, I don't know. In my head, I think if I'm part of a unit that starts out as 1,000,
yes,
and
you're down to 48,
and I'm down to 48, I would think somebody would say, "All right, you guys have had enough."
Yeah, well, they didn't do that.
At least scatter us out into other regiments or something.
Remember, they fought by brigades.
Yeah.
In the Civil War, so they're looking at brigade strength.
Yeah.
They're not looking at regimental strengths.
But isn't the brigade commander looking at regimental strengths?
Somebody better be.
Yeah, but it's.
But I mean, again, you're in the thick of it. You can't be thinking that.
Like
stuff.
Charlie says, they really don't care about individual regimental strength. They're looking at the brigade aggregate.
Yeah, that's
right.
nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris Whitmore, he's up next. He wants to know, after the war, were there ever any attempts by soldiers of the 16th Maine to piece back together the colors? We touched on that one too. That's a legend, but they didn't really do that.
No, I mean, like Abner Small said, they were cherished possessions.
Yeah.
Of individuals.
So why would you piece it back?
Handed it down to children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. And
now I don't have the account in front of me, but I have read an account of them bringing their pieces of the flags to reunions.
Yes.
And putting them together?
Not putting them together, but they basically get them all into one place, but not trying to actually reassemble it like a Frankenstein regimental color.
Yeah, so they definitely would bring them to reunions and so forth. And Yeah.
All right. Mike Lentz, he's got 3 of them. He says, why did the division commander, Robinson, issue the command to hold at all costs and not the brigade commander? Why was the chain of command circumvented in this matter? I have a pretty good feeling Michael actually knows the answer to this question, but he's doing this for the benefit of our listeners who are learning this for the first time. But go ahead, Charlie. We touched on that earlier. But
yeah, there's 2 things that contribute to Robinson. One, Paul's brigade was divided to begin with, so it's not fighting united. And the other biggest reason is Paul's not around. He's wounded.
Yeah.
And they you have to try and figure out who's going to command a brigade. How are you going to figure it out when a brigade's not unified?
Isn't there a point when, and I don't have it marked, so I'm not going to take the time to go looking for it, but isn't there a point where Robinson rides up to someone and asks who's in charge here? And isn't there a little exchange like this?
Well, he rides up, he was looking for the brigade commander, and he rides up to...
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Where is Colonel Root? Is that what he's...
Colonel Root.
Okay. Yeah. Prey responded, don't know, not here. Then he asked, where is Colonel Leonard? And was finally told that he was not with the regiment. Finally, Robinson exclaimed, you are next in rank. Take command of the brigade.
Right.
Who's he talking to here, though? I guess it would be Prey, right?
Prey,
no, yeah. So that it's a mess.
It is.
That's basically what's going on. And everybody's trying to figure things out. And
he doesn't really have a lot of time.
Right.
So a lot of times when time is of the essence, so to speak, division commander will give direct orders.
Yeah.
And that's what Robinson had to do.
All right. His second question is, was Colonel Charles Tilden taken prisoner or was he paroled? How was he able to return to command the regiment?
Interesting question. I used to use this a couple times when I was in my early guiding career, about Tilden. Tilden was captured, of course, with the bulk of the regiment in the railroad cut.
Okay.
He was sent to Libby Prison in Richmond, and he escaped in the famous Rose Tunnel episode. Was a lot of the Libby was for officers, and so they had this. It was like the Great Escape of the American Civil War. Steve McQueen riding the motorcycle ride, and so they got out through this tunnel, and he rejoined the regiment. Interestingly enough, at the Battle of Globe Tavern in August of 1864, regiment was roughly handled there as they're trying to cut the Weldon Railroad there in the Petersburg campaign, and he's captured there with a bunch of 16th Maine again. And, of course, he's not going back to prison camp, so he and I guess it was Lieutenant Davies actually escaped a second time, and he goes through the picket line and rejoins his regiment in the trenches of Petersburg.
Wow!
So this is what happens to Tilton after he was he escaped twice.
Well, good for him.
Yes.
And the third one is: are there any pieces of the flag that survived and can be viewed by the public?
I think
you said 4 in a museum.
4. There's in various
museums or historical societies.
Historical societies in Maine. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Maine. Have you ever been to Maine?
I have.
Yeah. How about you, Charlie?
I've never been there. No.
Me neither, but I'd love to go up there someday.
Incredible.
I'm trying to organize a New England trip.
Oh, that'd be great. Let me know if
I've been to Vermont once. But
yeah, I've been to Vermont as a kid, but haven't been to either since then. And I'd always wanted to go to see Maine. I don't know why, but something about it. Well, maybe we have a listener who has a B&B in Maine and would like to give me a free weekend. Okay. No, I'd have to drive up there. That's the problem. I don't like driving long hours anymore.
It's a long way.
Those days are done for me. Brian Darenick, on the afternoon of July 1st, the 16th Maine received a hold at all costs order similar to that of the blah, 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 blah. 20th Maine is what he was saying. Yes. Can Charlie speak to how Colonel Tilden and other survivors of the 16th Maine recorded their experiences in post-war writing for posterity in comparison to those of the 20th Maine, who through the efforts of Chamberlain and Michael Shara in the Killer Angels? Wait, what? Comparison to those of the 20th Maine were through the efforts of Chamberlain. So in other words, did the 16th Maine men puff up their experience? I
don't really see that happening. I mean, they did what they did and they said what they did. Tilton's not the writer Chamberlain was. He doesn't have a lot of...
Few are.
True. And you didn't have the controversy within the regiment that you did with the 20th Maine, as Garish and others chimed in, along those lines. So they didn't toot their horn as loudly as the 20th Maine. And of course, nobody wrote a novel about them.
Right. That helps. Pop culture helps.
It does.
A lot.
The military still used the Killer Angels as their textbook for staff rides at Gettysburg. And I asked the lieutenant.
Do they really?
Yeah, I asked the lieutenant general, why not use a history book? And he pointed to the officer standing there. He said, "You think I could get these guys to read a history book?" He said they'll read a novel.
Really?
That's what he told me.
That's weird.
And I'll tell you, for them, it looks at command decisions.
Sure.
It's not a tactical study.
Right.
It's personalities and how they impact decisions.
No, and Killer Angels is good for that. Yeah.
And the 16th Maine doesn't have that.
Right.
I mean, you can get a good burger at Gettysburg, but everybody goes to McDonald's because you got the arches.
Isn't that terrible? You're right. You're absolutely right.
So
There's plenty of good burgers.
Yeah.
Hey, that's true, ladies and gentlemen. There's plenty of restaurants that have pretty damn good burgers around here.
Yeah.
I won't name any because they don't pay us, but but there are some, and you can always skip the McDonald's.
And if you would like us to name you,
yes, advertise at Addressing Gettysburg.
There you go.
Matt McClanahan, he says, who spoke at the dedication of the 16th Maine's monument? Any interesting stories from that dedication ceremony? And what happened to the surviving Okay, we've covered the colors here and stuff. Okay, so yeah, the monument ceremony.
Well, the monument was dedicated October 3rd, 1889. And the speaker, the keynote speaker, I guess you'd call him, was Abner Small, who had served in the regiment during the Battle of Gettysburg. He was the adjutant, survived the war, obviously. He dies in, I think, in 1914 or something like that.
What was he, a major?
He became a major, yeah. He was a lieutenant, I think, at Gettysburg.
Okay.
Yeah, but he eventually becomes a major. He wrote the book Road to Richmond.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so he gave, and there was some if you're from Maine, the stories would probably ring to you. He mentioned men by name. He was the one that told about the color bearer being shot in that bayonet charge. The first man killed him, and then Wheeler getting shot, and then Paul going down and things like that. So, but no real interesting revelations. It was more of a history of what they did on the field of Gettysburg, mentioning some of the heroic actions. If you want to read it, it's in Maine at Gettysburg. And it has a good account there. You can read it, and it also has later on they have a history of the regiment. It also has Maine at Gettysburg also has the roster of the 16th, entire roster of the men, where they're from in Maine.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so it's really cool book.
Chaplain Cox, he says, did the CO really break off the hilt of his sword? No,
I don't
we don't
think
believe
he did.
so.
No.
He says, I find that very difficult to do if it was simply stuck in the ground. Yeah.
So this actually comes out of Maine at Gettysburg.
Go for it.
Okay.
And this talks about Tilden's capture. It's a footnote. It says, a tall skirmisher from Alabama, seeing Colonel Tilden standing with his sword drawn, drew up his musket and at a distance of not over 100 feet shouted, "Throw down that sword or I will blow your brains out."
Yeah.
Sticking his sword in the ground, Colonel Tilden passed to the rear a prisoner.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even say he broke it.
Yeah,
Maine at Gettysburg doesn't even say he broke it off, just
Or
says
tried
he
to.
stabbed it into the ground and then was on his merry way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got a sword and you got a guy pointing a musket at you. What are you going to do?
Sure, this guy just told me he's going to blow my brains out if I don't drop my sword.
Exactly.
So, okay, cool.
Never take a knife to a gunfight.
Exactly. Right. And that is a perfect example of that expression there. The Cardinal, Timothy Dolan, he says, I don't mean to insinuate anything nefarious of the 16th stand, but I'm genuinely curious about the casualties of the regiment considering the predicament. Records show 16 killed in action, 9 mortally wounded, 59 Waya. What is Waya? Wounded in action, sorry.
Yeah.
For some reason, my brain didn't work for a second here. 157 missing in action / POW out of nearly 300 engaged. These are not light losses in killed and wounded, but they aren't nearly as severe as other regiments who were making stands alone on July 1st for any length of time. Is the 151st PA 147th is what we talk about here. Was there some natural advantage to the position held, or was the delaying action too brief to incur more losses when the regiment was full? So I guess he's saying it doesn't sound like a lot of them were killed or wounded. Right. So a lot of these things just come from being captured. And
according to the 16th, they saw when they were along the Mummersburg Road the situation, and they began to gradually fall back along the ridge. Eventually, they get into Sheed's Woods, which is going to give them cover. When they emerge from Sheed's Woods into the railroad cut, they realize we're not getting out. So at that point, they determined that we either surrender or everybody on their own.
Because I think maybe, I don't know if this will help put a picture in people's heads of the position that they're in, but remember before when we were saying that where they were positioned is a good vantage point to see both ends of the line.
Right.
So that means that, like, imagine like a crescent moon shape and you're right in the middle of the crescent. And, it's coming towards you, and you can stay there, but you're going to get swallowed up. You're going to get surrounded because the flanks are all caving in on you. And so you're going to keep moving back. But eventually, there's just too many enemy troops. I mean, you're a couple of hundred guys against thousands, ultimately, of Confederates. Yeah. Now, of course, they're all busy, fighting with other units that are in different parts of the field. But the point I'm trying to make is, think of it like scissors, and then put a pencil inside the scissors and then squeeze the scissors.
Right.
Like you're in that position. So you don't want to be in that position. You want to get out. You want to get out as fast as you can. So you're not going to, I don't know. How long would you say that they actually made a stand before they started to withdraw?
Minutes.
Yeah. So they're not there. They're like a couple of volleys maybe, right?
I've always heard 15 minutes tops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's, it could be a little exaggerated, but it's just minutes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, by the time they come out to the railroad cut, they realize that further resistance isn't going to be of any value. They're not going to slow anybody down because the Confederates are already past them.
Yeah.
Right.
They're already going into town. So what are you going to do? Let's all get slaughtered for no apparent reason.
Yeah. So let's try to make it to our army.
Yeah. And so that's probably why you have such a high number of captured. Is that they saw the wisdom
of getting the hell out of there?
Well, of let's not offer any more resistance because it's not going to be of any
futile,
any use.
But what? I mean, how much of a deterrent or a stumbling block would they have been really? If they're holding off 15 minutes, what are they really holding off? They're only holding off the guys in front of them.
Right. The other ones are past them.
They're way past them.
Yeah. So their hold at all costs or delay at all costs order is irrelevant at that point to a degree because the Confederates are past them.
Right. Yeah. It's a strange order to begin with. But I mean, he's covering the retreat. I understand that.
And I guess it gave time for Paul to get his men.
Yeah.
His brigade, because he wasn't with them at this point, to get them out of that pincer, the scissors coming together.
Yeah.
Hold them open just a little longer so we could hold them out.
Right. Well, that's it. Yeah. But I don't know. It is an interesting story, the 16th Maine. Maine at Gettysburg is one book that you recommended. Any other one that you recommend on the 16th Maine or Maine in general? Or?
Well, you can't go wrong reading Harry Fonz's first aid book. Harry does a good job on that, so I'd read that. And of course, there's the regimental history we mentioned.
Yep, that's available on Google Books.
Abner Small's Road to Richmond would be another good one to read.
All right.
So those are books that I would highly recommend.
And Maine at Gettysburg is available on Google Books as well.
Oh, okay.
And they're both free, so...
Yeah.
Well, you can't beat free.
There's really no reason not to go check them out.
It has all the regiments were at Gettysburg. If you're into the maniacs, as I like to call them.
The maniacs. I like that.
This is the book you need to
So it's not just the 16th Maine. Obviously, it's Maine at Gettysburg. So it's all the Maine regiments. That's pretty good.
It's interesting to know too that in Maine at Gettysburg, the 16th in 1864 will be brigaded under the command of Chamberlain. Chamberlain, as a brigadier general, commands them at the end of the war.
Okay.
And there was there's a speech that Chamberlain delivered at a gathering of the 16th Maine that he was invited to as their brigade commander, and he gave an address in which he lauded the accomplishments. And that's kind of an interesting read, too.
Yeah.
And that's in Maine at Gettysburg, if you want to see what Chamberlain had to say about the 16th Maine. So,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, all right. Well, thanks, Charlie, for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we always love having you on. One thing I forgot to thank KK for the on-air sign that we have over there in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have it lit up right now, but that's why I forgot that we're on the air. But no, so I wanted to thank her for that, too, in the beginning. But I had so many notes in the beginning, I missed them. What the point of writing things down is if you're not going to read them, I don't know. But that's me. I get that nervous energy at the start of a show and gloss over things. Yeah. But anyway, thanks again, Charlie. Thank you, Eric. Thank you all for listening. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Turn those notifications on, and please consider becoming a patron today at patreon.com/DressingGettysburg. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, have a good one. That's all she wants.
That's a tape.
That's a tape. Now I just...
Our hearts so stout have got us fame, for soon 'tis known from whence we came. Wherever we go, they dread the name of Garryowen in glory. Instead, follow, drink down ale, and pay the reckoning on the nail. No man for debt shall go to jail from Garryowen in glory. Instead, follow, drink down ale, and pay the reckoning on the nail. No man for debt shall go to jail from Garryowen.